Earlier on, we defined the responsibilities of a controller. We said that a controller's job is to set up the scope and handle view interaction. Well, because we know that the scope is how the view gets data from the model, we can sum up these two responsibilities as coordinate the view and model. This tells us something about what kind of code should belong in a controller and therefore on our scope. A controller should only have code that enables communication between the view and either the model or services that handle events raised by the view. If our controller is doing more than that, then we are probably doing too much in our controller. We'll look at some examples of what this means in a bit, but first, let's look at how to create controllers. The basic pattern for creating a controller is shown here. We first get a reference to the module by calling angular.module with the module name. Then we call its controller method, which takes in two parameters. The first is the name of the controller, and then we have the controller function, or of course a min-safe array that contains the controller function. Now we also saw in this section on minification that we can always take the controller function, and instead of it being an inline function, we can make a separate named function out of it, and then pass that into the module's controller method. So let's show how we do that. This is a slightly odd way of creating a controller, but it's still valid. The last way to define a controller is just to create a named function with the controller name that you reference from your HTML. So in our HTML, since we're referencing schedule controller, all we need is this function right here, and our controller will still work just fine. This is an older way of defining controllers, and it has definitely fallen out of favor among the vast majority of the Angular community. So only use this creation method if you don't care about following current conventions. It's also harder to min-safe a function like this, and ngmin will completely miss it. See the documentation if you do want to min-safe a controller like this, but it's much easier to switch how you are defining your controllers.